All right. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show presented by BetUS TV. That one has given us a lot to talk about. One of the more interesting games of the season, a game that when you looked at, obviously, the Mavs injury report before this one tipped off, you would have said, this is either going to be a nothing burger of a game or it's going to be something of a game for all the wrong reasons. And somehow we got, I think, a game that is going to provide a lot of positive vibes for the Knicks and for several players in particular. And yes, it did come against a team that is very not good, although you could have fooled me in the first half. And like, there's no shortage of storylines. We could obviously, and we will, talk about the first time in Knicks history, franchise has been around for a few years now, almost 8 decades, that two Knicks got a triple-double in the same game. Congratulations to Karl-Anthony Towns and Josh Hart for pulling off that double dip. It's kind of amazing when you consider, I think Fred Katz tweeted before, it's only happened 20 times in NBA history that two teammates got triple doubles in the same game. Knicks have had some down periods in their history, but they've also had a lot of periods in their history where they were really, really good. And they've had some big time triple double guys, obviously Clyde, Michael Ray Richardson, even some guys over the last 25 years. The fact that it's never happened until now, pretty cool that it happened tonight. So we're obviously going to talk about that. Passing in general. Was that the best Knicks passing game of the year? The numbers say no. They actually set the team record for assists earlier this season at Denver with 45 assists in one game, or tied the Knicks team record with 45 assists in the same game earlier this year. They also had another game earlier this year where they had 40 assists, and a game earlier this year where they had 39 assists. But still, this is only the 17th game in Knicks history where the Knicks had at least 40 assists in a game. And this is only the third time that has happened since 1991. All three of those times have happened this season. So, I know we've kind of gotten away from that theme about this Knicks offense being historic. You could argue that because Jalen Brunson did not play tonight, that this passing performance, even with the competition being what it was more impressive than any other this season. So we're going to talk about that. We are going to certainly talk about Tyler Kolek, who just continues to one-up himself. He obviously, I know the game the other night was not his NBA debut, but as far as I'm concerned, it was his, kind of his NBA rotation debut. I understand he's played non-garbage time minutes before the Wizards game. But that felt significant. It felt like a big moment for him. And obviously he's continuing to get the opportunity with Deuce McBride still out. Goes from having 8 assists versus no turnovers to 9 assists versus no turnovers. Got started off a little slowly. It was kind of the inverse of the Washington game in that respect, but certainly turned on things late. We are going to talk about Tyler Kolek a ton tonight because he's earned it. He's earned it 100%. We're going to talk about all those things. So, OG Anunoby. We're going to talk about OG Anunoby. How about OG? 35 points. At times a dominant looking 35 points. Team high plus 24. Really had it going in all the right ways. Look, OG, I would say, more than any other player, certainly on the offensive end, has fundamentally changed his game the most since Brunson has went out. Has it always been pretty? Absolutely not. Even there were some times in the first half where the Knicks were seemingly scoring on every possession, as were the Mavericks, where OG, either when he got stripped, I think one time on his way to the rim, he had maybe one or two misses close by. We've seen a lot of that stuff of late, but the fact that he is making the effort he is to become such a more aggressive offensive player and specifically a driver of the basketball, he is letting it rip from three. He has become the Knicks most willing 3-point shooter. I mean, only 6 attempts tonight, but that's about the low for him of late. He's got blood coming down from his nose, and he's still absolutely lighting up the Mavs. We're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about all those things. And yet I feel my biggest takeaway from this game is the defense that we saw in the second half. You guys know, because I've been doing this for enough years now, whatever's going on, if there is something in a game that is a bigger picture or potentially a bigger picture takeaway, that's going to be the thing that I go to the most. And for me, the fact that I could sit here with all of those crazy offensive numbers that I just cited, that I could sit here and say legitimately that the Knicks won this game with defense is astounding for a couple of reasons. The most obvious one being that they have not been a particularly good defensive team all year long. And you can probably count the amount of games that they have won with defense on one hand. But even more specifically, you could argue, I don't know if the first half was their worst defensive performance of the year. It was perhaps their softest defensive performance of the year. And you know what? It's funny because there was a tweet that went out earlier today, and I'm going to pull it up. The only reason I saw it is Benji Ridholtz retweeted it. And let me see if I can get it in the next couple of seconds here. Yes, here we go. By Owen Phillips. He has a great newsletter, the F5, about NBA and data. And he did a newsletter about the percentage of opponents' shots taken with 4 or fewer seconds on the shot clock. And Benji, to his credit, checked out the newsletter and retweeted that the Knicks allow the second fewest late clock shots in the NBA. And his rationale, I'm just literally reading off his tweet, is a lack of ball pressure, a lack of switching, and a lack of schematic versatility, and that this resulted in offenses knowing that they can get the shot that they want against the Knicks. And how often this season have we seen offenses? Yeah, sure, the Knicks are giving up a higher percentage of threes or a higher three-point percentage than I think just about any other team in the league, or they were at the top, and they're still right up there, I'm sure. And you want to talk to me about shooting luck, and that's part of it. That's fine. But there's a comfort factor built into that. And the fact that teams know when they go out against the Knicks, because of the style of defense the Knicks play, they are probably going to be able to get good looks. Now, having said all of that, the fact that the Knicks entered this game, and I'll double check it right now, I'm pretty sure that they were up to 13th in defense. Yes, 13th in defense coming into this game is a massive counterpoint to anybody who says the Knicks defense is fundamentally broken. You got to scrap it. They don't know what the hell they're doing. This is not a deep, like yada, 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 yada. Clearly, if you're 13th in the NBA defense, you are doing something right. And there are the scheme that they run that lends itself to a certain amount of consistency. Now, we could go back and forth about this, and you could tell me that, yeah, but against the best teams, it doesn't work. I'm here for all of those arguments. But I think the fundamental takeaway with the Knicks defense throughout the season and in the first half tonight is that it is too often where teams know, all right, we're going up against this scheme. It's going to be cat. It's going to be drop. It's probably going to be a soft drop. It's probably going to be a shallow drop. And if the Knicks are not getting into us from the opening tip, we know if we move the ball and we just dribble penetrate and make the next pass, if we don't have the shot right there, we're eventually going to get a good shot. And that was the story of the first half of the Mavs. They scored 68 points. And it is not like this is a elite Mavericks offense. They traded Luka Doncic. He wasn't on the team. Kyrie Irving's not there. He's injured. The Najee Marshall was out there. Now, granted, that was an exceptional offensive half, and I want to give Najee Marshall all the credit in the world for what he did. But even so, I mean, it was soft. And I don't want to put it all on Towns. It wasn't all on Towns. It's never all on Towns. There were some other notable lowlights as far as defensive performances. I mean, they eventually switched OG onto Marshall. That didn't even go all that much better. Precious had some not great defensive moments. I mean, it seemed like they all came against Marshall, but it wasn't just Marshall either. I mean, again, he had 20, I think 8 points in the first half. They had 68 as a team. So it obviously wasn't just him. Um, and Josh Hart with some defensive lowlights. Shout out to Jason on the halftime Zoom. Let us all hear about that. So it was a team effort defensively. And I don't know if anybody heard Josh Hart being interviewed after the game. Alan Hahn, I think it was his first question, was to ask, was that a schematic change or was that a mentality change? And Josh Hart says it was a little bit of both. And yeah, absolutely, the Knicks came out of halftime like a team that was like, all right, we're going to defend like we mean it. This Mavs team, we're not going to let this thing go down to the wire. And sure enough, they didn't. But it was more to it than that. And the style of Knicks defense that we saw in the second half was fundamentally different from not only what we saw in the first half of this game, but from pretty much anything that we've seen this season. Again, referencing that Benji tweet, talking about schematic versatility, talk about a lack of switching, talking about a lack of ball pressure. We saw all of that stuff in the correct direction, in the direction we want to see it in the second half. And sure enough, the main centerpiece of the difference was Karl-Anthony Towns. The amount of aggression at the level of the screen that Karl-Anthony Towns displayed in the second half, the number of times that they freely allowed him to switch, it's almost as if Tom Thibodeau said, I've had enough of this. Let's go. We have to try something different, which, again, to fans' credit, there were many fans that have been screaming from the rooftops to do more of this throughout the entire season. And again, I would politely refer those fans to the Knicks' 13th ranked defense coming into this game. So it has not been all terrible, but it is hard to watch how much better they got in the second half and say that this is not the way. This is not the path to go. Really getting into these guys, allowing your best defenders, your OG Anunobys and your Mikal Bridges of the world, and even your Josh Harts of the world, to be more impactful off the ball, which is arguably how all those guys are at their best. Certainly Mikal Bridges, and I would argue that OG Anunoby too, and have them make impact plays. Now, was this the 2016 Warriors offense? No, it was not. So the fact that, the Mavs scored 68 points in the first half, and then I had him at 28 points when the Knicks started putting in, when Tibbs emptied the bench, and it was garbage time with just under 4 minutes to go. So basically, through the first 20 plus minutes of the second half, the Mavericks, after scoring 68 points in the first half, scored 28 points. With the Knicks up by 23 at that time. Not a great NBA offense by any stretch. And again, to all of the criticisms about the typical standard defense the Knicks play not being good enough against good teams. Well, guess what? If you're more aggressive against really good teams, they're going to figure out a way to exploit that too. Like, at the end of the day, if you are dealing with limited defensive personnel, a good team is eventually going to figure it out, or a good offensive team is eventually going to figure it out. That's the league that we play in right now. Well, me, not so much because I don't play basketball. But the Knicks playing right now, where even your best defensive teams could be made to look like, look silly on some nights. And the Knicks are not one of the best defensive teams in the league. I think what tonight, the takeaway is for me, though, again, big picture wise, is that it really does have to be a mix of everything. It has to be a mix of everything. And I'm not even, maybe not even half to half, but like quarter to quarter, lineup to lineup. Like, they have to give teams different looks. You have to. Because again, you're dealing with limited personnel and the offenses in the league are too good. And, again, we're not putting the Knicks in the second round just yet. But if they get there, and then in our wildest dreams, if they get past that and get to the conference finals, along that path, you are going to be facing not one, but two of the greatest offenses in NBA history, or so say the numbers. So that's my biggest takeaway from this game, big picture wise. Not that all the offensive stuff isn't important. I do think it's important, but like, did Cat or Josh Hart or even OG Anunoby or frankly Tyler Kolek do anything tonight that was out of the ordinary or unexpected, or that we thought that they could not do or that they were not capable of doing? I don't think so. I guess I'll end the monologue here. and Benji and me talked about it on the most recent KFS pod. I talked to DJ a little bit about it on the most recent Patreon pod. There was enough, the 3-game stretch with San Antonio, followed by Charlotte, followed by the near second half collapse against the Wizards, was so unsettling that I know personally, I was just kind of shook. I really started to ask myself some questions about like, what is this team exactly? What are we here? And then it comes back to, well, it's like Jalen Brunson isn't in the building, so or he was in the building tonight, but not on the court. So how much should we really take from any of this? And you go back and forth and back and forth. The Knicks are, the Knicks have a winning record without Jalen Brunson this season. They actually now, without Jalen Brunson this season, are 6-4. Because they had that win against the Jazz on New Year's Day. In this most recent stretch, that they are 5-4. Now, you look at those 5 wins. Have those 5 wins come against the highest quality of opponents? No, although the Heat sure look like a quality opponent tonight against Golden State. Guess they had a little something in store for Jimmy Butler. But it doesn't matter, especially when, and I kind of touched on this in my newsletter on Monday. Shout out to all my Substack people out there. Like, it's a long season, and we're at the point in the season where good teams that you think are known quantities, teams that you think like, all right, this is a safe bet that they're going to go in and do this to this team on this given night. Like, nothing is a safe bet. Maybe OKC, and I guess Boston too recently. But like everybody else across the league, you look up and down, you look at the top of the West standings after OKC, you look at teams missing players, like upending teams. Like, it's a long season, and I think if you're a team that knows you're going to be in the dance and you're going to, have a chance to have a potentially long playoff run, maybe we shouldn't look too deeply into this stuff. So, and that goes for the good and the bad. The fact that the Knicks were world beaters tonight, like, you look at it like, all right, it was like, take it with a grain of salt. You take it all with a grain of salt. But I think coming off of those last 3 games, the fact that the Knicks came out tonight and had an utterly dominant, there's no two ways about it, an utterly dominant offensive performance without Jalen Brunson, and doing it in the way that we've wanted them to do it all year, with the passing and the movement, and it looked beautiful. It was as beautiful a game offensively, and the first half, really, because then the third quarter, they actually started to drag a little bit, and yet they still found a way to score 30 points in the third quarter. Go figure. And then defensively in the second half. So in that sense, this game really did kind of have it all. So I'm encouraged. The next, it's a little bit tougher sledding from here. Tomorrow night against the Clippers is not going to be easy, because this game was as tight as it was for as long as it was. The guys maybe played a couple. Well, really, it's OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby, he had to play 38 minutes, but nobody else over 34. So that's encouraging. Cat 34, Bridges 34, Hart 33. You hope those guys, considering both games are at home, they'll be all right, or have good energy. Certainly because they didn't expend any energy on defense in the first half of this game. So, hopefully they'll be good to go for tomorrow. And we should also say, I should have said this at the top, the other reason why I'm not just like saying, oh, it's the Mavs suck and they're missing everybody. Yeah, the Mavs are missing a ton more players than the Knicks are missing, but the Knicks have a very clearly defined top 7 of their rotation. And they were missing 3 of those 7 players, including their best player tonight. So it's not like the Knicks were at full health either. So hopefully, obviously, they're not going to get Jalen Brunson back tomorrow, and I certainly don't expect Deuce McBride to play. But I think there's a good chance that Mitch plays, just because I think the only reason he sat tonight was because the first of a back-to-back. So I think that'll help, although Precious did a couple nice things tonight. Did some not nice things also, but some nice things. So that'll help certainly tomorrow against the Clippers. and we'll see. They may get no Harden either. So